where the March 24th meeting of the County Commission was going to feature a wrap-up by your lobbying team of recent legislative action. In the true spirit of pandemic social distancing, the Board of County Commissioners are being presented this legislative after-action report in the safest form possible, recorded. So let's get to it. On Thursday, March 19th, the legislature concluded its work for the 2020 regular session. The session was extended nearly a full week to provide for some last-minute issue trading between the two houses and to finalize a budget agreement that also has to cool for 72 hours before it can be voted upon. Now that the dust is settled, we can start with an overview of session statistics. Over 3,500 bills and resolutions were filed during the 2020 cycle. Over 400 passed their House of Origin, and over 200 survived the 60-day-plus regular session. Now that the legislature is adjourned sine die, the governor will have 15 days from when a bill is delivered to his desk to sign it or veto it. Otherwise, it'll become law without his signature. During the 2020 cycle, there were 653 bills identified as having a potential impact, good or bad, big and small, on county operations. Of the 207 that passed the legislature, over 70 will be incorporated in the annual Bills of Potential Impact report that will be distributed to your offices, as well as our county departmental heads and other constitutional officers. Now let's cover a few session highlights of particular interest. Of course, right now, a lot of attention is focused on treating and preventing the spread of COVID-19. In the budget passed by the legislature, $25 million in general revenue has been appropriated to the Department of Health to combat the virus, along with $27 million in federal funding that came via the first congressional emergency appropriation of $8.3 billion. In addition, the legislature has set aside $300 million in reserve for coronavirus response. Compared to addressing a pandemic, other matters can seem trivial. But even the legislature physically disinfected their chambers and completed their work, and as a result, there are other issues to highlight and budget items to cover. Let's start with a familiar topic: vacation rentals. During the regular session, you were updated on the significant progress the bill was making in completing its committee run and heading to both the House and Senate floors. All signs pointed to final passage on the horizon. Indeed, like last year, the House passed their version and sent it along to the Senate. The Senate companion bill made it to its last committee stop, Rules Committee, when in nearly the 11th hour of session, Governor DeSantis made comments to the press at an unrelated ceremony at Florida A&M, saying he was leaning against the bill, and he wasn't sure the state should be micromanaging vacation rentals, and that the issues related to rentals should probably be determined locally. These comments were nothing less than a torpedo to the broadside of the bill, and last-minute efforts of proponents to salvage it were unsuccessful as it was pulled from the Rules Committee agenda. One issue that passed both houses unanimously and now awaits gubernatorial action is Senate Bill 712, the Clean Waterways Act. This act works from recommendations of the Blue-Green Algae Task Force to address a myriad of nutrient sources that affect water quality, including septic tanks, wastewater, agriculture, and stormwater. The bill has many components which will be better delineated in the Bills of Potential Impact report that you'll be receiving soon. But some highlights are the transferring of the septic tank program from DOH to DEP. The bill doubles the fines for wastewater violations and increases the cap on total administrative penalties that may be assessed by DEP from $10,000 to $50,000 and the cap per violation from $5,000 to $10,000. It creates a 50% matching grant program for septic-to-sewer conversion and upgrading of septic systems. DEP can waive the local match in rural areas of opportunity. The bill creates regulations for agricultural use of fertilizers and provides for collaboration between the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and academia in developing best management practices. Significant rulemaking will follow enactment of this bill where various program particulars and administrative procedures will be detailed. Though the provisions of the bill do not satisfy the desires of all the environmental groups that came to the podium, most at least see it as a positive first step in addressing water quality. The budget always commands our attention, and barring any line item vetoes, it turned out to be a good year for funding streams and projects applicable to Collier County. Though its future was again in doubt, given the probable impact of COVID-19 on the Florida economy and, in particular, tourism, Visit Florida was again saved from extinction and will have new life until 2023. For the next fiscal year, they will have $50 million to help market the state and its many tourist destinations. Land conservation via state acquisition will also continue with a recharged $100 million checkbook. And for the first time in recent memory, the Sadowski Affordable Housing Trust is fully funded. $50 million for beach projects and renourishment is becoming the norm, hot off the heels of the new coastal management scoring system that passed in 2019. And we're pleased to report that your support resolution for the Naples Bay Red Tide Septic Tank Mitigation Program saw $1.1 million appropriated for Phase 2 to continue the joint projects between the county and the City of Naples. In no small part due to your visit to Tallahassee in February to pitch our local projects to key appropriators and staff, it was also a good year for our county-specific funding requests. Like last year, the county only asked for an equal match from the state for our projects. This 50-50 approach increases the odds of state funding and is required by some members of our local delegation to secure their sponsorship. The Cocohatchee River Critical Dredge Project was funded by the legislature at $100,000 for the removal and disposal of silt that is accumulated and is impeding stormwater conveyance from a very large watershed. It's hopeful that restoring the original river bottom will reduce potential flooding in Collier and Lee counties. Likewise, Phase 1 of the Golden Gate City Outfall Project was selected by the legislature for $100,000 in funding to determine the volume of silt to be removed in order to restore the canal network to its original bottom. Improved stormwater conveyance will reduce flooding and improve storm recovery time. And for the second time, the legislature has provided funds for Goodland Drive. During fiscal year 17-18, the legislature provided $500,000 in design funding. This year, they've provided the $1 million match requested for reconstruction and rehabilitation of the two-lane rural roadway and multi-use path. This project will include raising 0.87 miles of the roadway, which will help address flooding issues during extreme tides and storm events. Installation of large cross drain pipes will also provide for tidal exchange to the stressed mangroves on the west side of the roadway. As previously mentioned, these funding lines are also subject to line item veto of the governor. Last year, if a locality's project request wasn't funded at the full asking amount, calls were made by executive staff to intended recipients of the project funds. If the amount was deemed insufficient to move the project forward, as originally delineated by the requester, those funds were vetoed. County staff has reviewed the state budgeted amounts and foresees no issue in moving the Cocohatchee and Golden Gate projects forward. On behalf of the board, Chairman Saunders is sending support letters to Governor DeSantis establishing these funds and timeline facts to help stave off any veto consideration. Probably the biggest county priority was also moved forward after your Tallahassee visit, the quest for a state veterans nursing home. Through your offer of land and local match construction funds, your meetings with the Governor's Office and the State Department of Veterans Affairs, and persistent follow-up by your Tallahassee lobbyist Lisa Hurley, FDVA will be coming to Collier County to visit the proposed Golden Gate site once the statewide coronavirus emergency is abated. There's still a long track ahead and hurdles to jump, but this is a significant stride in moving the state portion of the process forward. Before COVID-19 prompted necessary changes to the BCC schedule and agenda, Lisa would have been here in person to significantly supplement this presentation. It's through her behind-the-scenes efforts that we get access to the specific decision makers responsible for an issue or appropriations request. She did another incredible job this year in representing us in Tallahassee, and I'm sure you would agree. Each year we look for ways to improve Collier County's legislative game. Lisa already runs a powerful offense that has found the end zone several times since joining the team. With the support of the county manager, this year we concentrated on building our defense. As you well know, local governmental authority and program administration are routinely topics of legislation in Tallahassee. The Florida Association of Counties does yeoman's work in trying to address the numerous bills moving simultaneously through multiple committees on both sides of the building, all the while trying to gather and disseminate information to and from the counties to rally a defense. To aid in expeditiously providing information to our county departments on bills that may significantly impact their operations, and to facilitate an equally expeditious gathering of information to provide FAC, Lisa, and other entities to mount a defense, this year the 4 department heads obliged our request to select a primary point of contact for information gathering and dissemination to each department. These 4 tenacious individuals, Ian, Diane, Josh, and Lee, were trained in legislative process, educated on bill tracking software, and quickly established themselves as invaluable. Information flow has never been better, and our ability to help fight back against onerous or flawed legislation has been greatly enhanced. This was no better demonstrated than when, with Lisa's on-scene guidance, Amy Patterson and Ian traveled to Tallahassee to address an impact fee bill that was complicated to the point that even the affected associations, including the proponents, were confused as to all of its ramifications. Working with the sponsors of the bill and the committee chair, they were able to clean up the language to remove all onerous provisions and unintended consequences. With numerous bills moving during session on the topic of contractor licensing and inspection, code enforcement staff also participated in conference calls to educate FACT staff on the local impact of the various proposals. This level of collaboration was inspiring, and with the continued assistance of these key departmental contacts and frontline staff, our program will be even better for 2021. As mentioned earlier, the Bills of Potential Impact report is currently being compiled. It will be emailed to your offices once completed. Until then, should you have any questions about these issues or other legislation, please contact me at your convenience. Should there be any vetoes on bills impacting the county or projects in the budget, I will also update you on that occurrence. Especially given current circumstances, I hope this presentation and the format was of value to you. On behalf of Lisa, Ian, Diane, Josh, and Lee, thank you for your attention.